Welcome to Igniting Change, the podcast where we explore innovation, industry trends, and how tech for good is solving the world's biggest challenges. Let's get into it.
Hello, and welcome to a Break from the Norm Igniting Change episode. I'm Matt. I'm the head of marketing at Three Sided Cube, and I'm joined by Duncan.
Yeah, I'm Duncan. I'm founder of Three Sided Cube.
Yeah, that's right. And yes, we're here to bring you the latest results from our annual survey. This is the third time we've done it, looking at AI adoption within the tech for good space and what people think and how they're using AI, what are the pitfalls, what are the benefits. So yeah, we've got the report. It's ready to release to the world, and this is us giving you the highlights. We've also got a webinar, if you'd like to register for that, on the 12th of November, to give you a little bit more of a deep dive into some real examples and people's experiences of using AI. But yeah, from the results that we've seen this time around, definitely reached a tipping point, it seems, in people's usage and adoption and feelings towards AI, which we'll explore as part of this episode. And also, because it was such a popular highlight from last time, we're bringing back the quiz. Duncan's very happy about.
I'm sure I'm happy with that.
So yeah, we will explore some of those stats and decide whether they're true or not much later in the episode. But now it's probably a good time to paint a bit of a picture about what we've done at Three Sided Cube with AI in the last year. So Duncan, have you got some examples you can share?
Yeah, I think so. Experimentation. What we've been trying to do is get past the headlines. There are so many headlines that are like, oh my God, AI is going to take over the world. It's going to do this, it's going to do that. Oh my God, this new platform, you can just type 4 words and it just builds you the world. So we've spent probably we're doing more and more experimentation with AI, but certainly from January that has ticked up a lot. And I think you're seeing it with a lot of kind of leaders. They are taking AI seriously, right? Because 2 things, they feel like, one, it is going to be a revolution, right? A well overused word, but we are at the start of a, revolution. There's been plenty of those through the time. It's definitely going to change how we work. It's already changing how we work in day-to-day stuff. And everyone wants to find out, like, cool, get me to the finish line. What effect does this have on me as a person, as a business, as an organization? So we've been trying to step in the future as much as we can. We now have dedicated work stream from it. I now spend 70% of my time just on that, which is pretty good. It's good that we got such a strong team that I feel like they've actually just tried to make me unemployment, to be honest. A side project to work on, but and then using the technology itself and trying to solve real problems, because that is how you find out. That's how you get past the hype. Is cool. What can it actually do? Because it can never do what they tell you it can do. Where are the actual problems? Where are the actual limitations? And weirdly, we're all slow to kind of talk about those limitations. So yeah, interesting. It's been interesting.
It was good. So we talk about getting hands-on with AI. So one of the things that we did after January that you mentioned, we did a workshop, didn't we, to build the website for Three Sided Cube. And that was really interesting because, like you say, there's nothing like getting hands-on with the technology. And very quickly, we were finding that we could get some really amazing ideas and really stretch our thinking and get some code. Because obviously one of the things that AI does well is generate code. But past a certain point, it was definitely time to hand it back to one of the tech team to actually work out what we could use from that code. Yeah, so that was really interesting. And it was kind of a cool, with the workshop environment. So we were all kind of learning from each other.
Yeah.
So that was a good...
It's always nice to go into the unknown, isn't it? And see what those issues are. I think we definitely learned a lot through that, right? The first thing that we learn is that their headlines are not true. Maybe some point in the future they may come true, but actually I think if you think about, and I think we like a lot of the stuff that people talk about, like jobs and stuff like that, I don't think many things actually end up changing in terms of, so you think about marketing, right? We always talk about marketing. It's about standout, right?
Right.
If you got in a time machine and you went back to 1960s, you'd have to start smoking and drinking whiskey, obviously. But standout would actually be quite easy because the new level is up here. So anything between where their level is and where you are is actually like, it's all,
Progress.
you're going to make really good progress.
Yeah.
And I think my gut is AI will just raise the bar, and you can use AI to do the whole thing that you want it to do. But what it will mean is actually people will be like, cool, it's great. Your website is now the new Lord of the Rings trilogy, and you've got explosions, stuff like that. But people will see past that pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And it will be, how do you stand above that? And the only way really you can do that is generally with people and ideas.
Yeah, you're very much that. And it was like we did get a little bit carried away during developing that website. And at one point we had chaos buttons and you change the
Yeah,
cursors to
which
a
is good.
watermelon and all that stuff, which was great because like we were experimenting. But then before we launched the actual website out into the world, we just had to rein that back a little bit.
No chaos buttons. Got it.
Yeah. Yeah. So definitely take your point there. And we're finding in marketing how, with AI and as it is more adopted and becoming more widely used, other channels are changing to suit. Like there's a lot of talk at the moment about SEO and how that's different. And is it GEO or AEO? And
Yeah.
how are the core principles the same, but the tactics different? And how do you get AI to support you in that? And change your workflows and all of that kind of stuff. So it does feel like core principles are the same, which is what, to your point, but the ways and the tools are becoming more fragmented. So like
Yeah.
there's new tools coming out all the time. And I think that's probably one of the challenges that we're facing as a marketing team is to keep up with those and which ones are good and which ones stick. But the output is great.
It's such a different era, I think. You get fatigue, right? Fatigue of everything, right? Everyone's like fatigued on AI because we're all talking about AI and blah blah blah. But we're just naturally like that. It's the same with new software that's coming out and new capabilities. There's a limit to how much you almost need to retrain yourself to be able to handle that amount of change and then make the most.
And I think that's why it's key. You mentioned it right at the top where being founder led, I'm hearing that a lot within the agency world where founders are almost not quite giving permission, but like making space for people to experiment. And I think that's really important.
I think that's the biggest mindset, right? And I think the mindset journey for us has done. We did it. I'll say started it a couple of years ago. I think mindsets have moved to where we want them to, but it is that experimental mindset. It's we don't know what we do. It is like jumping on the boat and going across to the US, like for the first time. It's we don't know what we don't know, and the only way to do it is to experiment, to play with it. And not everyone has that time and space. But for us as an organization, we need to understand what the truth is below the flashy headlines, because all the headlines are like so over the top, it's unreal. And in every single scenario, when you dive under the hood, is progress, and it can do certain things a lot better and a lot of great opportunities, but it's not as easy or as incredible as the headline says. And it's like, and it is basically like, yeah, it is good at this, but it doesn't do this, and it falls over here, and it's
Again, coming back to my experience in marketing, like been a lot of talk on LinkedIn and various other social platforms about, it's the end for Google. Like Google's done. It's all about, the LLMs and search engines now these days. But the reality is like percentage change is happening, but like in single digits, and Google's still the market leader. So like you say, when you get behind the hype and the headlines, it's a bit different. But we should probably bring it back to our report and our findings. What was really interesting, I think, for me, is the level of engagement in the survey this time. So we have been putting the survey out in the Tech for Good space, as I said, for 3 years. And the people have given opinions and they've responded to the survey. But this time it was markedly different in terms of how people approached the survey, how much more willing they were to share their experiences. And in fact, since we've got some talking head videos that we're going to share as part of the rollout of the report as well, where people are sharing real examples of how they've adopted AI. Yeah, it's great. It's been great to see that and to see that maturity of how people are using AI in specific ways, which is really cool. Yeah, the adoption headline, 89% are using AI in some way. And it feels like that tipping point in terms of almost everybody is on an AI journey of some description.
Yeah. I think definitely the consumer elements have driven that. So the fact that, ChatGPT is talked about all the time. It's not just used by people in, organizations and stuff like that. It's, used by your partners to whatever, you can use it for so many different like consumer use cases that I think it's kind of infiltrating from all areas.
That's really interesting. I thought about that. But yeah, I think a bit like, because I'm old enough to have experienced the birth of the internet, but like in similar ways that you obviously use the internet for your for gaming and, bits of your personal life. So it's very quick and easy to adopt it in business world as well.
Yeah, definitely. There's so many good use cases, I think, for users.
Yeah, love that. Yeah, and in terms of that integration before, it was quite polarized. Like you'd have the majority of the people were on some kind of journey, but now we're
Yeah.
getting to the levels where we've got getting on for 20% of the respondents to the survey consider themselves fully integrated with AI. The percentage of people who've got some kind of AI, a published AI policy, was nearly 60. There's some really encouraging numbers in there.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think there's some interesting ones as you dive in. So generally, confidence in use is going up, right?
Mhm.
That is without question. There were some interesting ones that I wanted to pull out.
Yeah,
Yeah, so confidence in a good interesting one for our one is confidence that the AI will be will be harnessed for good.
right.
Uh,
Yeah.
that has definitely changed markedly.
Mhm.
I think 52 percent were confident that it was. We're now in the 40s. 44% are as confident that that's a thing, and I think that's where people are starting to get a little bit past the hype
Right.
and starting to understand it a bit more, understand what it can do. It's a tool. Ultimately, it's going to be a tool used for bad as well as it will be for good, like the internet has been. But I think there's less of that halo, a bit more of the reality kind of
What
coming
do you
in.
think's behind that? Do you think that's people getting hands-on and experiencing it for themselves?
Yeah, I think it's all going on a journey to understand. Cool. So this is like this new technology. What can it actually do? And to start with, we were like, okay, I can talk to it, and it will give me answers that are like sometimes correct and sometimes not. And now we're like, okay, it can do some real deep research, and I can actually ask it to go and take actions on things. And then I think the mindset is going, this could then, drones is a good example in terms of the tech for bad. It's not unlikely to be people in control of the drones directly, humans in the loop. How bad could that do? We've already seen the thing about when the internet came out and social media, we were also green and also hopeful, and it was such a beautiful, lovely world. I used to love social media, and now we all realize that unfortunately it's a cesspit of just horribleness. And I think there's a bit of that reality that we've got to be pretty careful here. I think I was definitely very green in terms of like social media and the internet. And when people were like, I don't know if I want my profile online, I was like, well, why not be open? Da, 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 da. But what you don't think about is, state actors, people have been trying to control people's opinions for centuries. And what I certainly didn't think about is, people would want to utilize those as influencing mechanisms. I think the other thing which worries me a little bit and probably worries others is how's this going to affect our kids? Like,
Yeah.
we're already slaves to algorithms in certain ways. So businesses are slaves to the Google algorithm, right? People on social media, you don't get to see your friends. You are a slave to what the machine thinks you want to see. That slave to the algorithm approach is going to increase dramatically over the next few years. And it's like, social media is a nightmare. So I think people are now there's more context. They now understand what is more likely to happen. So I think that's where the concern is. And that's where the more realistic approach is.
Yeah, and I think there's a role there, isn't there, where there are good examples of where AI is making a difference in a good way and
Yep.
help communities. It's helping with medical research. It's helping to connect people in ways that they couldn't dream of before. I mean, certainly one of the respondents to the survey, British Deaf Children's Society, we've been talking to them since, and they were talking about how they were, because another negative headline for AI is, well, it's taking our jobs. Well, they were very pointed about how they used it. So rather than replacing their call handlers with an AI agent, which would absolutely be something that they could physically do, they decided to use AI in a much more good way and use it to train from conversations anonymously. And then that became a knowledge base for their call handler. So whilst they're talking to people, they're able to offer a much more personal service. They're able to concentrate on the conversations they're having rather than needing to, be coping with notes because it's writing up the conversation that they're having as it's going. So, I mean, that's a really good way of AI being used for good. And what's driving that is the nonprofit saying, okay, we're mature enough to know how we're going to use this, and we're going to be very deliberate about how we roll it out so that it's not replacing jobs. It's actually offering a much better service and, for the communities that we serve.
Yeah, I think it's a really good example. I think there's two drivers for the technology to be used in the tech for good space. I think one is doing more with less. I think there is a big opportunity there, and that's a really good example of that kind of stuff. And then I think there is the risk factor, right? So we will continue to see a load of headlines of AI like causing issues, or like, or putting, a bit of, I don't know what's called, mud on your face or whatever. I can't remember which accountancy firm, whether it was McKinsey, KPMG, or whatever it was, that basically let a slop report go out where it was made up facts and stuff like that, right? So I think risk is a big driver for organizations. They are worried about their reputational risk for just being sloppy or mistakes. It's like less controlled. So I think they will utilize AI, but they're going to be slow to expose it to the general public. So I think where you've got a human, I mean, you could say with KPMG, they should have had a human in there. But you're going to want to use it more internally, like you say, for examples like that. We talked to an organization that's got a training manual that's like 900 pages,
100 pages, yeah.
like this big, and they need to find the right thing in the right scenario, and that's huge amounts of data that you need to know the answer to. It's a great, AI can give you that information, and the risk factor is really low, and you could switch on, and could hear as you're training, and kind of bring up useful bits as you're talking, because it knows that you might need to reference that. That's like zero risk, right? Not quite zero risk.
It's no, more calculated risk, right?
It's much more calculated, right? It can still make things up, so that you have to have checks and balances in place for that kind of stuff. But if you've got someone who's a trainer who knows, the ins and outs, less likely to them to use that. So it just means the quality of what they delivered, rather than kind of going through these hundreds of pages and finding the right one, can be like a much higher quality, and the training that you can deliver can be a lot higher. So
that's where the impact happens, right?
yeah, I think it's where that's going to happen first. I can't see the tech for good sector, apart from new smaller charitable organizations taking risk. We've seen that before, fairly risk averse.
Yeah.
So I think that will be their first kind of foray into that as they get more confident, and then they'll slowly open the opportunity where they see it to make sense.
Yeah.
To be
It was a really interesting point you made about like scarcity of resources, and how that is a use case and a rationale for using AI, because it can increase your productivity and efficiency. That was certainly something that we asked a question in the survey about improvements. Like, if you've adopted it and you're using it, what improvements have you made? And that efficiency and productivity were the ones that came out on top this time around. So yeah, I think that talks to people having real examples of where they've tried something and it's working, and having productivity gains, which is cool. It's great to hear.
Yeah, definitely.
Nice. I think that the sort of maturity thing that we've been talking about again echoes it in the fact that more people have got published AI policies now, and starting to get to the point where they can articulate what they're doing and why they're doing it, and what the rationale is behind it. It was really interesting, again, talking to one of the respondents from the survey where they were talking about the AI policy is something that they're championing, and they wrote their own AI policy and then built the prompt to help other nonprofits write their AI policies because they saw it as a blocker, and that was their way of using AI for good. So they said that they've
Nice.
had 100 nonprofits generate an AI policy through their tool now, which is really cool. That's a good way to give back, and having almost cracked it for yourself to
Yep.
then give that prompt back to the industry to make everyone else come along on the journey, which is cool.
And again, low risk, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Low risk because you've got a human, with human in the loop thing is
yeah.
like saying, and it's what you've got a human there, right? It's interfacing with another human. They're like checking, okay, yeah, I'm quite happy with that. They're then editing and making changes, but it's bringing up good structures. That's the kind of stuff. Like initially, the stuff that it's really good at is like starting from a blank page is always been difficult, and now you don't need to start from a blank page. You have some structures to kind of start from.
We found that. So again, off the back of the website project that we did, one of the things we were looking at was tone of voice because we changed our visual styling. So we wanted to make sure that people coming to the site for the first time knew it was us because it sounded like us. So the projects feature within the AI tools that we've been using where you can load in your tone of voice, you can load in loads of documents, it can train off of the prompt, you can keep the same, talk about in these ways and highlight these things. And that's really been great in terms of making that part of our day-to-day in our marketing output, first drafting through AI, but it's referencing all of the stuff that's gone before and is more likely to sound like you. Again, or it's always checked by a human before we hit the publish button, but it just quickens that path
Yeah,
to get to the fun.
definitely. You can get more to the good stuff, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the more enjoyable stuff, right?
Yeah, for sure.
One of the other things I wanted to chat through was this thing about community engagement. So we're seeing that maturity in people got AI policies and what have you, and structures and guardrails in place now. But the thing that they're still not seeming to do is to talk to the communities that they serve about, what their concerns are, what needs that they've got that they could address with AI. So yeah, I'd be interested to hear what you think about that.
Yeah, I think it's two things driving that. I think one is you got to be confident in it to start with,
Okay.
right? You've got to have confidence to understand how to use it, what it can do, what it can't do. That's the first one. The second one is risk,
Okay.
right? I know we talk about this a lot,
Yeah.
risk, or I talk about it a lot. When you're a massive organization servicing, hundreds of thousands of people, you have quite a lot of risk,
Yeah. That's
and that does stifle innovation, and it stifles what you need to do in an area of huge change is take some risks. So you have to find a way to take those risks. Like big organizations have done it previously by funding smaller ones that are a bit more like a walled garden and a bit more protected. That is an excellent mechanism, and also it allows you to deploy funds to people that are closer to who you're serving, so they've
right.
got better,
More
deeper
connected.
understanding. But those people on the ground need to understand, like, what can it do, what kind of what's the benefits and stuff like that. But the things like your data and your understand. I mean, there's a load of dangers around this that, like, we're on this train. Like, there is no, oh, I don't know if I'm going to get involved with AI, or you're on it.
You need a position on it, even if you're not.
Yeah,
Use
it's like the internet, really, right? And it's like phones, actually. Even unfortunately, it's going to that destination, and we now use phones for everything. If you want to get on a bus, you need a
Yeah.
phone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, it's just really difficult unless you're Ed Sheeran. You've got drivers and stuff like that. Then you can go without a phone. But for all of us, we need phones. So there's no like stopping where it's going. It's heading. I think what would be great for these organizations, and that's where communicate engagement happens, but it's a tricky one to do early doors, I think, is to just understand where the concerns are and how do we protect ourselves from building. Social media is a great example of us. I think there's a really good one on what tech decisions you make, right, that
Okay.
don't trap you. So we all kind of got onto the social media. We didn't all, some people didn't, but a lot of people onto a lot right? And you're kind of committed to those organizations and you're kind of fixed and you're kind of reliant on what motivates those organizations. So, the Facebooks, the Metas of this world, just how much money can they get out of us? So how many eyeballs can they keep on that? For someone like Twitter, where free speech is it's basically an open garden for anyone to come in and manipulate your thoughts and senses. So, and the problem is there's not really any alternatives. Like I know they try and there isn't any alternative. That's our big concern, I think, with the LLMs. Big organizations like the Anthropics and the they switching models is a piece of cake. So easy for anything you build, you can chop between models. It's like the phone network, except imagine you got a SIM that you can just switch easily.
Right. Yeah, good.
So they know that. So they're going to be building moats. So one of the moats they will be building is memory. So it knows so much about you and your organization or what you need to do that value of information it has makes it very hard for you to move across. So absolutely. So thinking about how you don't trap yourself into an LLM to give yourself options is kind of critical to think about now. OpenAI, as an example, they're releasing loads of stuff, but they've released an agent model, which means, agents are good for like, here's a task, go away, think about it, and then apply different tasks. And, you can get it to take actions and do stuff. You're doing it on their platform. How do you get out of their platform? And that's probably, the biggest thing right now to be mindful of is how do you give yourself the freedom to move and what traps you into those places. Memory will definitely be a big one that traps you.
Okay. Nice. That's something I hadn't even really thought of. And I guess so as we're starting to wrap up, we talked about the survey results, but so before we get into the quiz, what would be your one piece of advice then? So given that the audience for this podcast is people in the tech for good, nonprofit, what would be your one piece of advice for them, given where we're at on our journey at Three-Sided Cube for AI adoption, or to make that transition easier for them?
I think you've got to experiment, or you've got to work with a team that is experimenting. Like we're doing a load of free work, learning the realities of voice or using workflows to kind of solve problems. And that allows us to like quickly shortcut to like what's important. Like workflows, it's data and stuff like that. So I mean, it's good to experiment, right? And giving yourselves the room to experiment. Very difficult in an organization that raises donor dollars, where you've got to trace every donor dollar to the impact. But, the rest of the commercial world is very focused on this because it will have a huge impact on their organization. Taking the risk, finding mechanisms that allow you to take the risk. The good examples, World Vision did this really well, and I'm sure tons of organizations do this, but funding smaller organizations where the risk is contained is a brilliant exercise, because it's going to be very hard to say, hey, we're going to put this very big important logo on this thing and it could go wrong.
Right.
It's not gonna help. And then I think it's thinking of the dangers, definitely thinking about the decisions. Like, anyone who's a parent must be thinking about their kids. Like, what do their kids need to look like? What are the dangers? I worry about the algorithms themselves and us being more and more of a slave to the algorithm. So, and I love technology and I'm experimenting around that. But I think watching where the traps are is probably more important, because all these organizations care about is making as much money as they possibly can. So I think that looking at where the traps are, it's going to be key.
And I guess a part of that is defining what your use for AI is.
Yeah.
You're not sort of overplaying that card.
But a lot of it is experiment to understand. A lot of it is like, how could we use it? It's like you've got to kind of play to understand. Could actually use it here, and it'd be really, really useful.
And so also what it can't, like the limitations and the boundaries that you hit as well, is all part of that learning process. Right?
Where's the trust? Where does it fall over? Where does it make up stuff?
Yeah.
How trustworthy is it? When to make decisions based on it, when not to.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Well, thanks, Duncan. It's been really good to talk it through. But there's one more thing we've got to do. We've got to do the quiz because we've got some amazing hats lined up. The reason we've got hats is that we're playing a game called Stat or Cap. So I hope you've been paying attention to what the stats that we've been talking about. So I'm going to read a statement, Duncan, and then I'm going to ask you if it's true or false. So whether it's a stat. The first one is most purpose-led organizations still haven't tried AI.
False.
That's cap, right? You were right. Well done. Yes, most have, as we said.
Oh,
before.
sorry. Do I have to say cap? Do I?
Yeah, it's your stat or cap.
Cap,
Yeah,
sorry.
so you
Cap.
could sound like a youth.
Cap,
Yeah,
because it's what the kids are saying.
yeah,
Okay.
because of the hats. Yeah, but you got that one right, so you don't need to put a hat on. So we're good. On to the next question. About 1 in 6 say that AI is fully integrated.
I'd say that's a stat.
You're right. Again, a 2 out of 2. You're doing very well.
Nice.
Right. And the next question is the biggest group is stuck at the pilot stage with AI.
Oh my God. The truth has to be that that's a stat, but I worry it might be a cap. I'm going to say stat.
Oh, you're wrong. It's cap. So the largest cohort is in the day-to-day integration because we were saying that the tipping point is upon us and more people are using than not. So yeah, unfortunately, you're going to have to choose a hat from the selection in front of you.
The selection is really nice. And I've got a face as well for hats, which kind of helps. I don't know whether to do this one. I might leave this one. How many more questions have you got?
We have another 3 questions. So you're halfway.
This shows you how bad I fit a cowboy hat.
Oh, that's a strong look.
That's quite, that kind of works.
So you can wear it until the next question and then, right. Okay. So
Oh, do I change it? I don't stack.
you can, I love that idea. Yeah, let's do that. That's amazing. Right. So the next question is more than half now have an AI policy.
I want to say stat.
Yeah, you're right. Oh, well, you get to keep the
I
cowboy
drop
hat.
the hat now.
No, you keep it on because then we can stack them up like you said. I think that's a brilliant idea. Right, here we go. We were just talking about this one. Most teams often involve their affected communities.
Yeah, I know that's not. So that's cap, right?
Yeah, you got that one right as well. Or maybe it's just going to be the cowboy hat, folks, but we'll see. Right, so the last question, Duncan.
I just show you the worst hat. This is the worst hat. I don't even know
There's
what
a
this is.
potential
It's a
taco
taco hat.
situation. Yeah, that's beautiful. Right,
Well,
let's keep our fingers crossed that you get this wrong.
The taco.
Most report noticeable improvements from using AI.
Most report notable improvements. Cap?
It's stat. It's true. So you get to wear the taco.
Get the taco out. I don't think I can stack the taco.
Stack a taco. That's the headline.
Hello.
That's a strong look.
The taco cowboy hat is a thing. Who knew?
Stack the taco now becomes the title of this podcast. So thank you.
I feel like we've got a fashion blog coming up. I like this look.
I dare you to wear it for the rest of the day.
I'm not sure I like it that much.
Fair enough. Well, I mean, that's the highlight of the entire episode for me. But I will just remind everybody that there is more excitement and potentially hats coming on the 12th of November at our webinar on this topic, sharing more of the in-depth opinions and interviews with people that we've had around the survey. And the survey will be available to download from our website. Thanks for tuning in to the podcast today. Thank you, Duncan, for your time and your willingness to wear a hat.
If anybody wants this look, I feel like we could sell this look. Could work.
I'm going to love you pitching that to the product team, but I'll look forward to that later and say thank you, everyone, for tuning in, and we'll see you on the podcast soon.
Nice. Thanks, everyone.